So we want to welcome in our Campus Connection virtual facility tour for today. We were in Philly yesterday. Today we're in Laramie, Wyoming, and we have the distinct pleasure to join us on the program from the University of Wyoming, Assistant AD Creative Services, Dennis Trapani, their Assistant AD Technology of Project Coordination, Austin Scott, and their producer for live events, Tyler Haak. All right, really appreciate you guys joining the program. Loving the branded swag. You all showed up really coordinated. Love that. Dennis, before we get to the official tour that you guys have put together for us, which we really appreciate that opportunity to see some of the stuff here. Just give us a real quick insight to what this project has been like. You know, we talked to the Kevins yesterday at Temple and just how challenging the process has been of trying to build and open a control room with all these different, you might not have been able to have people on campus, all these different protocols. Maybe your people who are helping you on the vendor side are not able to travel to campus in the way that they might used to be. Just how challenging has it been doing this with everything that was going on this academic year?
Well, I would say the biggest challenge was getting it off the ground. We were supposed to do this last summer, and then the world ended when COVID hit. I remember the day all those college tournaments started getting canceled. My boss called me and he said, "Hey, I got bad news," and I kind of knew what it was before he even said it. So, in a way though, it ended up being a good thing. It gave me a full year to go over everything, cross all my T's, dot all my I's, make sure everything was right. And other than that, I mean, our campus has been open for a little bit now. The restrictions got lifted a while back, so it's been pretty easy for the guys from Key Code to come in and work on the room. Other than that major hiccup last summer or last spring, it really has not been a difficult process at all.
Sure. Before we get to the official tour, I know there's a member of your team who was a big part of this that you'd really like to give a shout out to. So go for it.
Yeah, I want to thank Kevin McKinney. He's been my boss my entire 8 years here. He's our senior associate AD for external. He is retiring here in about a week after over 50 years at UW. Between being a student, he was the assistant SID, the head SID, and now all the way up to external lead. So, he did the VO on this video, and probably the last one he'll do for me.
Oh man!
So big shout out to Kevin. He's been a great boss, great mentor, and I appreciate him helping us out with this.
Well, we're honored to have him a part of the show then, and definitely send our best to him. Congratulations on just an incredible run at YO. But yeah, let's take the time now. Let's dive into it and take a look at these facilities, and we will preface this, Dennis, as we did in some of the promos and everything. Unlike Temple and tomorrow UC San Diego, yours isn't done yet. I'm actually pretty excited about that because I love seeing like that in progress kind of stuff. But keep in mind that this is a work in progress, and we really appreciate Dennis, Tyler, and Austin willing to give you, the audience, a look at this before maybe everything is polished up and ready to go. But let's take a look at the new facility coming together in Laramie.
Hello, SVG College Summit attendees. Welcome to Laramie, Wyoming. Sitting at 7,220 feet above sea level, the University of Wyoming is home to the highest fields and courts in all of Division I college athletics. We figured we'd start our presentation by introducing you to some of our facilities. War Memorial Stadium is home to the Cowboy football team, as well as the $43 million High Altitude Performance Center completed in 2018. As part of the HAPC project, our football video board was constructed. The crown jewel of WyoVision's equipment collection, the board features 16mm LED panels, sits at 85 feet wide by 37 feet tall, and debuted in 2016. In addition to the main board, the war also features 4 corner ribbon board LEDs and 2 40-foot wide end zone LED panels. The Arena Auditorium is the home court for the men's and women's basketball teams. The arena was renovated in 2014, and a new video and sound system was installed. The twin main displays are 47 feet wide and feature 16mm LED panels. In addition to the main boards, the AA features a 40-foot TV visible LED scores table, a 10-foot LED table for broadcast talent, and a 5th 20-foot LED display for time and score. Finally, The Uniwild Sports Complex houses the Cowgirls volleyball and cowboy wrestling teams. The facility features a full 720p video board made up of 10mm panels that was installed in 2016 along with the football board. Live video for each of these facilities, as well as the Luis S. Madrid Sports Complex, home of the Cowgirls soccer team, is controlled from our central video control room. A stone's throw from War Memorial Stadium, the AA, and the Uniwyo, Control Room A is the final termination point for over 250 lines of single-mode fiber and over 100 audio lines from the 4 facilities. This room provides broadcast or video board coverage for over 70 events a year. Once our current renovation is complete, a Ross Ultrix 5RU router will serve as the main brains of the system. Paired with a network sound Mamba analog to MADI converter, the Ultrix will give us more flexibility than we have ever had for sending and receiving feeds. In addition to the Ultrix, we have also added a NewTek TriCaster 2 Elite with a 4-stripe control panel which will serve as our main video switcher. The final main addition to the room will be a Ross Mira Plus 12-channel replay server. For graphics, we use a Chiron IP system that connects 2 graphics channels to our TriCaster over NDI. For image capture, we utilize 5 Panasonic PX800 cameras with multi-dyne Silverback 2 fiber transceivers to send and receive video and audio to and from the cameras. For lenses, we currently have 3 Fujinon 20X ENG lenses and 2 Fujinon 55X EFP box lenses, with a 3rd on the way. We also use a variety of Marshall POV cameras for beauty shots, slam cams, and net cams. With our new renovations, for the first time we were able to construct a secondary control room housed within the WyoVision offices. Utilizing all previously owned equipment, Control Room B is run by a 40x40 Blackmagic Smart Hub router and features an 8-channel switcher, 4-channel replay system, LTN connectivity, and NDI audio control. This control room will primarily be used to stream press conferences and will serve as the control room for our new television set that is currently in the early planning phase. We hope you enjoyed this quick look at our WyoVision video facilities. Thanks for watching.
Very cool. Appreciate you guys putting that together. Fantastic stuff. Real quickly, because I know you touched on it a little bit in the beginning there as you were kind of going through all the different facilities, but just to kind of put a bow on it, how many different sports will this ultimately serve? And is it just for broadcast? Does it do some video board stuff too? What's the kind of specifics on the numbers of what you can serve?
It'll serve 6 sports: football, the basketballs, volleyball, soccer, and wrestling. And it does both. It does video board and broadcast.
Okay, cool. And we've got some additional photos on standby. So Dennis or any of the guys, just call on them whenever you want, and Christian's ready to throw those up. So
we could show them right now if you want.
All right, fire away. Let's take a look. Yeah, if you want to walk through some of the stuff, as we said, kind of a work in progress, but really coming together nicely. Is this the same space where that previous control room that we saw was in the video?
Yes.
Or is this a total? Okay, so it's a complete gut and redo.
Yep, pretty much complete gut and redo. We have 7 racks in there, and they're redoing 4 of them. So as you can see, that they've made a lot of progress since we took those mid-construction shots. The benches are pretty much wired. They're all done. Right now they're working on cleaning the racks up. The speakers still have to be mounted next to that top TV there, and then obviously we just need to do a little cleanup. But it's really coming along. It's actually been a pretty quick process. They got in there on June 7th, and they'll probably be done at the end of next week.
Okay. And now are those racks in a separate room, or are they in there in the same room with you?
They are in the control room.
Okay.
So we keep it pretty cold in there with the air conditioners.
Yeah. It was, when we were talking to the Kevins yesterday, they had the same thing where the racks are right in there with them. And I'll just ask the same question someone in the audience asked. Any sound issues or anything like that, or are you guys able to you think you'll be able to function in there? Okay.
A little bit here and there.
Mhm.
I think we're actually. I was talking to the guys this morning, and they suggested maybe putting some sound dampening curtains up in front of the racks just to separate the noise from the main
Mhm.
production area. So that's something I think I'm going to look into.
Okay. For the audience, the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen is where you can send in questions for these gentlemen. They're here live, not for my benefit. They're here for your benefit. They're here to answer your questions that you have as we go through this. It can be as specific as yes or no questions or specific gear questions, or if you got bigger philosophical ones, feel free to put them in there. I'm keeping an eye on that as we go. So definitely don't hesitate. They're here to answer your questions as we go. But I will start with the overall timeline, which you talked a little bit about before we got to the video. Dennis, can you kind of tell us where you're at? And I assume it sounds like you guys expect this to be done relatively soon, and you'll definitely be ready for the academic year, right?
Yeah, right now on the schedule, it looks like the end of next week, the build part will be done, and talking to the guys downstairs that are working on it right now, they think they're going to hit that. And then probably a couple of weeks for commissioning, just making sure everything's working. And then we hit the ground running on training on the Ultrix and the TriCaster and the Mira, and should be ready for our first game on August 20th. Luckily, we have, normally our first events of the year is generally a football game. That's just the way it's worked out. But we got really lucky this year. Normally there's like I said, normally it's a football game, maybe a soccer game or a volleyball game before, but we actually have 6 events before our first football game this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're going to have plenty of time to work out the kinks and try some new things and see what happens.
Okay. To lean into the tech, Austin would like to ask you about maybe some of the challenges you guys faced along the way. What were some of the key decisions that you needed to make, or points along in the process where you feel like you really needed to put your heads together on some tech choices?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it came down to what Dennis and his crew wanted to use. With me being more on the engineering side, it doesn't really benefit me to choose something over another for operation, viewpoints, but definitely going with like the Ultrex expandability was one of the biggest things. We're in there every summer adding something that we need. And so definitely wanted the control room to be expandable and to not really be limited. As much as I'd like to leave this control room alone the next couple of years, we do have some upgrades, planned and hopefully some phases 2s and 3s and stuff like that. So definitely expandability was the biggest feature.
Okay. And for one of the first questions from the audience is a bit on the tech side, talking about the interoperability, I should say, of all these all this different gear and different manufacturers that you guys working in. Dennis, I know that you had a lot of positive things to say about Key Code, and how they help you kind of tie this all up and put it all together. But Austin, that interoperability these days, was it relatively simple from an engineering standpoint, or were there some things that some corners you needed to kind of work around?
There definitely was. I would say for the most part, we did pretty well, and maybe we got lucky with a lot of our stuff working. However, when we were kind of going through some of the designs for this new project, Key Code referred to our system as scrappy because we've certainly pieced together a lot of stuff to make it work. Like before this, we had decimeters everywhere, line to mic converters, stuff like that we just didn't know about when the control room was built. So we were able to work around it, but we didn't really have any major snags or issues as far as mixing gear goes.
I can relate to that. Someone who was called scrappy a lot in my younger sports playing days. It's like, thanks, I think. I'm not sure if it's a compliment, but appreciate it. One more from Asa in the audience. The control rooms, you mentioned they're supporting video board production. There were some of those smaller boards that you were talking about. Are you supporting those, or is this purely like the feed that's going on the big screen in said facility?
No, that's in there too.
Okay.
Our football and volleyball boards are run by a click effect system. And our basketball boards are run by a Vsoft system. Okay, great.
All right, good questions so far. Keep them coming in the audience. Again, the Q&A function is at the bottom of your screen. Good ones from Greg and Asa to start. I kind of talked to Austin about this a little, but Tyler, I'm interested from your perspective. 1, how excited are you finally to get into this thing? 2, what are the most substantial upgrades that you're expecting over your previous room that we saw in the video? And I was going to give a third part, but why am I going to shoot 3 questions at you at once? Let's just start with those first 2.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm super excited to get in there. It's like Dennis mentioned before, there's been a lot of, we thought it was going to happen, then COVID hit, so it's nice that it's finally happening, and it's going to be awesome that we can finally get in there and get our hands on the new equipment and stuff. For me personally, biggest thing, so most of our events, Dennis is directing and I'm running lead replay. So getting that new Mira system, having the ability to be able to capture any camera that we have and be able to make playlists and everything out of that is going to just be huge for me. I think having the more playlists as well, just there's a lot of functionality things that will allow me to work smoother, quicker, and then, be able to get back to live replays with my other replay operator. So I think there's some of that. That's more where my area is, and I'm excited to get to that.
Okay, cool. And during the process, were there any challenges that you faced along the way and overcame as we kind of, hopefully, as you get closer to the completion of this thing?
No, not a whole lot. Honestly, Dennis and Austin were more on that end of that kind of stuff. Big thing that I was helping out with Dennis is just trying to figure out the flow of the room and everything. It's kind of a limited space, especially with those racks and everything in there. So the biggest part was just trying to figure out, communicate with each other, just figuring out how we can get 12 people in that kind of small area, and work comfortably and be able to, be in there for 10, 12 hours sometimes with football games, and we have double headers. So, but for the most part, it all went smooth.
Okay, cool. Question from the audience. Dennis totally acknowledging the fact that none of us on this call are architects, but you mentioned the elevation. Obviously, the weather can get pretty brutal sometimes in the winter, but probably worse for, when you guys are in the middle of basketball season. But with the video board affected by cold or elevation at all, is there anything that you guys have to take in that's within your purview, obviously, anything that you need to take into consideration considering the altitude and the weather?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I went to college in Erie, Pennsylvania, so the winters here aren't that bad.
Okay, all right.
But no, that was definitely taken into consideration with all the displays in the football stadium. I mean, sometimes it'll get down to -10, -20 here, like it's nothing. And it's kind of the old joke when they say about Arizona, it's a dry heat. Well, it's a dry cold here. So, but no, Austin can probably speak to that a little more because he's the one that. When a panel goes out 5 minutes before a football game, he's the one getting 3 phone calls from people freaking out. So, I'll kind of let him jump in on that on the weather aspect.
Yeah. The biggest thing, the altitude's never affected the equipment. It's affected me when I'm climbing the video board,
That's fair.
Thin air up there. But the biggest thing is the cold. We can have temperatures fluctuate so much and so quickly. So a lot of times, we can get down to -30 overnight, and then the next day the sun comes up and we're 30 above. And what I've noticed more so rather than the panels themselves is the power supplies like to die. Just that quick change in temperature takes those power supplies out. Since my time here, I've replaced only a handful of actual panels, but I've replaced dozens of power supplies.
Totally understood. And there's a question about connectivity too. How are all your venues connected? Are you doing IP? Is this fiber? How are all your venues connected?
Go ahead.
Sorry. For the most part, it's all fiber. We have a couple of audio lines and stuff that go back and forth. But for the most part, it's fiber everywhere else, and we're trying to just expand even more, get fiber everywhere, and get it back to the control room.
Okay.
I will say soccer, we only have about 10 lines of fiber out there, and it's enough to get our 4 cameras and our broadcast booth back. So whenever we've wanted to add stuff, NDI has been a lifesaver when it comes to our soccer facility. We can put a little throw down bird dog adapter out there and send some beauty cams back, or we've even, instead of trying to send the clock data back over fiber, we can set up a laptop with the bug there, send it back over NDI, and just run it off TeamViewer. So there's been a lot of times that's really saved us out at soccer.
Sure, sure. I know for anyone in the audience and for anyone who works in this industry, when you get the opportunity to be a part of either a renovation or a build like this, it's a pretty exciting time. You maybe only get a couple of them in your entire career if you're lucky, unless you hop around a lot. So I'm wondering from your perspective, what was that like? And Dennis, we'll start with you. And was there any like, man, this is a legit shot where I have the opportunity to get this, and I want to make sure that we get this? Was there anything that you really, really wanted out of this build, and what was it?
Well, I would start by saying, I know you say you only get a couple, but it's a testament to our administration and how much they have invested in our area. I mean, we've done the basketball arena renovation, we've done the new football board, we got to build this room as part of the basketball arena renovation, and now this is our first major renovation of it. So I've gotten to do it quite a bit here. The biggest thing this time was, as Austin alluded to, expandability. I think when we built the control room back in 2014, I didn't know a quarter of what I know now.
Sure.
And I've learned a lot along the way, but we built that room, and then we thought, no, hey, great, we're good for a while. And then about a year and a half later, I'm looking around the room going, oh man, we've outgrown this already. Wow. So this is, like you mentioned with the Ultrix, just the ability to add cards, want to add fiber card, SDI card, whatever it might be. The TriCaster, obviously NewTek makes those great panels where you can add SDI inputs. Just stuff like that to expand down the line was the biggest thing I was looking for.
Okay. And Austin, you mentioned the expansion earlier, but is that it, or were there was there anything else that you were really excited to kind of, crack your knuckles and do with this?
Yeah, definitely. So I came in to this control room, I don't know, it was built in 14. So five years into its life. And like Dennis said, a year and a half in, they realized they outgrew it. So there was things that were pieced in and different from the original drawings. And so when I came in, it took a lot for me to learn what was going on in that room, to try to figure out what was changed, what was original, what we needed, and all these expansions. So I was really happy with this new project to be able to almost just get a fresh start. And be there from the start of this system. So it's, from the time it was finished, I was there and I know exactly what's where. I have the official drawings, and it is just going to help me work on that room that much better.
And Tyler, I know you mentioned the replay. So was that the big one for you?
Yeah, definitely for me.
Sure.
It's a big one. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now the timing, not only was it tough, Dennis, but I know for a lot of people who are kind of building facilities, control rooms or trucks, it's like everyone else is in the process of trying to alter and retrofit their control rooms and facilities and have people working out in press row. So to meet social distancing guidelines during everything that was going on with COVID. Like you mentioned earlier, that it sounds like you guys got back to fewer restrictions a lot quicker than maybe some of the rest of the country did. So when you guys were planning this, did you put the distancing into consideration at all? Or were you really just crossing your fingers and going, we'll be back to normal by then, it'll be fine?
Little bit of both. There was a lot of finger crossing that we'd be back to normal. I know during the year we had plexiglass sheets everywhere in the room between people, masks, hand sanitizer everywhere. It was pretty apparent here in the last couple months that we were going to be pretty much back to normal. So we kind of went just in that direction. Obviously, if the plexiglass has to come back, I'm praying it doesn't. But obviously, we have the ability to put that stuff back up. But yeah, no, we kind of rolled the dice and crossed our fingers and hoped we would be back to normal.
Right, and everyone's just got a closet of plexiglass now that they hope they don't have to crack open ever again.
The best day of my year though was when I started taking that down.
Yeah, amen to that. Andy at Texas A&M is curious, more from I guess a workflow perspective. How heavily do you guys use student workers, and is there much of a freelance pool for you guys to pull from in Laramie? Or are you going heavily with students, and does that impact design choices at all? Dennis, how do you guys run your program and staff up on a day in and day out basis?
Well, I think like some schools, we have a communication school, but there's not a true journalism school. So we've got, I'd say probably right now about 10 or 11 students or former students that are working, on our crew, and probably another 10 to 15 freelancers. I got very lucky when I got here. There was a core group of freelancers that had been working here for years before I got here. So most of them have hung around. We've been able to add here and there to to that pool when I find somebody that moves to town that's interested. It's a good mix of both, freelancer and student.
And do those, and this is for any of you guys, does students, I mean, it seems like gear has gotten so user friendly, and, the days of like reading a manual to like learn a piece of equipment are, they went away a long time ago. But does the constant, reshuffling of your student staff impact any gear decisions at all? Is there any gear that you look at and go, well, that just looks really easy to teach someone, so we're going to lean towards that? Or is it a pretty level playing field in terms of that now, you think?
I would say it's pretty level. I
Okay.
trust almost all of our kids to learn whatever we put in front of them. And that's played out over the years. As long as you take the time to teach them. There are certain things like I know the Mira, having the ability to have 2 operators. Tyler can make all the packages, and all they have to do is, make sure the play gets rewound and run when I call for it. The TriCaster, you can set up macros with an X keys so that, if you have a student TDing, it's okay. Push this button and it's going to do exactly what I want. And then once you get that done, we can teach you how to do the 3-step process that I want there. So just things like that.
Okay. And I missed this question earlier, and I know it was addressed in the video, but just for the sake of the question, where is this control room again? It's in your basketball arena?
It's actually in what they call the field house, which is where most of the athletic facilities are,
Okay.
or athletics offices are located. But it is right next door to the volleyball wrestling arena. And it is a, 30-second walk from the basketball arena and about a 1.5-minute walk from the football stadium. Maybe not even that much. So we're lucky we're centralized. So it was pretty easy to wire everything into it.
Nice. That's great. Okay. We've only got a few minutes left, and we really appreciate you gentlemen coming by to share this with our audience. Again, if you want to squeeze in a question or two in the Q&A, please feel free to do so. But I guess my last question, which is the last question for all of these venue facility tours that we're doing this week, is what advice would you give to someone if they were where you were when this whole thing started? Yesterday the guy said, hey, especially during a year with COVID, our integrator couldn't have been more valuable because we had to really rely on them and their expertise, because we couldn't pop to other campuses and see what they're doing and actually physically see facilities. So that was one big one from yesterday. But Tyler, maybe we'll start with you. What piece of advice would you give to someone in the audience who's where you were maybe 12 months ago, looking at this project as an empty notebook and is maybe a little scared right now?
Yeah, I would say a big part of it is just, I guess like we said earlier, it kind of was a bad thing because COVID hit, but it also gave us that much more time to truly figure out what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It really gave us that extra time to figure out, okay, this is what we want. This is how we want to do it. So I think it's just doing the background on it, figuring out what's going to work best for you, and just taking that time. Don't get too excited about something and go, oh yeah, that's what we're going to get right away. Just, really figure out what's going to work best for your workflow, and just, communicate with your team members what's going to work best in that situation.
Okay. And Austin, for your fellow engineers that might be in the audience, some advice for a project like this?
Yeah, a lot of it's, just going off what Tyler said, was just planning it out. There were so many times where, Dennis and I sat down in his office and we had a list of stuff, and we're like, all right, this is the new build. And then we would go through it and be like, wait, we don't need this, or hey, we have 2 of these in here, and just stuff like that. So just really taking the time to look over it. And I know, like Tyler said, it was kind of a curse and a blessing at the same time that we got that extra year. But really just take the time to look over it. Another thing too is really communicate with your integrator to get exactly what you want. Don't settle for anything, because then you'll end up a 1.5 years looking to do another renovation again. So communication and planning.
I know that's one of the things that I always hear from a lot of schools. Is like, I know Dennis, you had mentioned that, you guys have gotten some pretty good investment, but you feel that pressure of like, oh God, we got to get it right because this might be the only chance we get to do this. And then there's the guilt factor that lays in when it's like, well, we gave you all that money a year ago to build this new control room and you need new gear already. And like someone mentioned yesterday, it's, I think it was Meg from ESPN. It's like, well, you wouldn't buy a car and not put new oil in it. Like, you got to keep this stuff fresh. So respect that, that you want to plan ahead. And also, to your point, Austin, keep yourself loose and flexible and expandable. Dennis, take us home. Piece of advice for someone who's in a similar seat to yours, who's overseeing a project like this.
Try to learn. Learn from whoever you can. I've been lucky enough to become good friends with a few of the TV tech managers that have been in here, and I pick their brains a lot. SVG has an incredible directory, and I found that 95% of the people in this business are willing to answer questions. If you're unsure about something, just ask somebody that knows, and then, in addition, find out who your regional sales guys for the vendors are. I mean, Marcel from Ross, I probably drove him crazy through this entire process. Every other day I was emailing him going, well, would this work? Would this work? What do you think about this? And he was great to work with. So, that's the biggest thing is use the resources that are around you. There are a lot of people that have done this before, and they're willing to help.
Yeah, really, really appreciate it. And gentlemen, congratulations on all you've accomplished so far. We wish you nothing but the best as it comes together in the final days. Send us pictures like it's a new baby as soon as it's ready to go. We can't wait to see it. We'll definitely touch base with you before the start of the year to see how it all comes together. And if you can, enjoy some of your summer before the new year starts. All right.
For sure. Thanks, man. And hey, thank you to the whole group there for getting this on again this year virtually. You guys have done an incredible job the last couple of years to make sure this event still happened with everything that's been going on in the world. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Tyler, Austin, Dennis, thanks so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.